Howdy guys, it's Joe here today talking about Tracer and more importantly Spree. And I felt like Tracer was a very good choice on a person to talk about as a lot of people like this character and want to hear about this character. And if you want to hear about any certain character, tell me in the comment section down below, and whoever gets the most likes will be the character in the next video. But other than that, I feel like this is a really strong character right now. Can definitely carry you a lot of games, and in my opinion is the best offense hero right now to carry if you get really good at the game. Now, of course, I'd say if you aren't, amazing at the game, going pro at the game, or just becoming very good and putting a lot of time, she's probably not the best character. It's probably easier to go soldier, and probably easier to maybe even go someone like Winston, and, a lot of characters like that. Maybe even Genji slightly. I don't know, they're about the same. But yeah, definitely someone like soldier. It's a little bit easier to do that. Someone like Pharah. But even with that said, if you do want to become really good at this game, and if you do want to do very well, Tracer's a great pick. And right now, I'd say is really the best meta to pick her. As you see in a lot of this gameplay right here, Tracer can essentially do everything. She can burst through shields, she can get straight onto the back line, and since Lucio isn't picked, every single game, she can actually take out the supports almost all of the time. It really makes her quite good, and especially since there's a lot of Winstons, which she works amazing with, and a lot of Zaryas, which she also works really well with, and with just a lot of the tanks that she can counter and that she can go in really strongly with. I feel like right now is the time to pick up Tracer if you haven't played her before. Anyways, as far as Tracer goes, let's just get more into the gameplay right here. We see a really nice thing, which is that she's not exactly diving the backline, or I guess he's not exactly diving the backline, but moreover, trying to just pick off the people that are coming up a little bit too close, and then, just ending up their lives essentially immediately. And then, of course, right here, going a little bit for the backline, but you never really see him running straight to the back at very, unlikely positions to actually get kills. I feel like a lot of people, when they hear the word flanker, they think about going all the way around to the back and then, just going in from there and always trying to get kills from the back, but it doesn't always work like that. A lot of the times, if you push from the side, which what most flank actually are, if you do that, you can get a lot of kills, as we see right here. You can be pretty safe, be right next to your team, and you can flash straight into your team if you need them, while you can also still get picks off to the side. Of course, it can be a good idea to walk straight to the back line and try to kill them. But I'd say it's often a lot more safe to do this playstyle, and often the more safe playstyle actually works a lot better. I know it might not be as flashy always, and a lot of people kind of complain that these top players aren't the most flashy players in the world, because they aren't always in the back line, always killing people. But the best idea isn't always the most flashy idea, and I want you guys to remember that. Anyways, a thing we see a lot from this guy, there we go, unlucky hook, but a thing we see a lot from this guy is also when he gets onto the back line, he plays pretty safe. I feel like some people might just jump in there with no flashes, but for the majority of the time, he wants to make sure that he has at least one of his right clicks up, or one of his flashes, whatever you want to call those. He has one of those up almost always. And I feel like this is an important thing to remember when you should be using these things, especially against some backline characters. Tracer actually has a bit of a problem. She can't easily kill them, but it's a little bit unsafe, as if somebody like Soldier turns around, if someone like Hanzo turns around, anything like that, you can quickly go from an easy kill on the support to a pretty hard kill. But instead, what we see quite often with this guy is that he saves up a lot of these, he makes sure that he goes in, gets from the back line, and then he always makes sure to have at least one thing to flash away out of that. At least for the most part. Of course, there are different situations, but for the most part, it's a very nice, safe way to play it, and you see it works pretty decently well, honestly. It makes so you don't die way too often, and it makes so that you can be continually live, continually doing a lot of damage, and of course, as Tracer, you do get randomly picked sometimes, but if you overall play pretty safe, and if you play knowing that you can get in and get out whenever you need to, it'll work a lot better for you. Than what quite a bit of people do, which is just waste all of your flashes, get straight in there, and then immediately die. Of course, especially against somebody like Zenyatta, I would say always make sure to keep one of those flashes. Something we see right here is, of course, Nano Boosted Tracer. Not maybe the best thing, but it is the best thing on their team. So if you're playing as Ana, and if you're a pretty good Tracer, you can actually ask for that. It's not as bad as a lot of people think. You can actually get straight through tanks, immediately get your ult, and then jump into the enemy's back line with your ultimate almost immediately, get a Nano Boosted ultimate, just going from there. That works really well. Now, as far as some stuff to talk about the exact meta that we're in, if you are facing against a Pharah, which luckily this guy isn't, which can be kind of hard, just ignore the Pharah, honestly, and go off to the backline. If you can pick one or two of the backline, be it their McCree, or be it somebody such as, their Ana, anybody, Zenyatta, Zarya, whoever you can get, you can honestly essentially win your team the game. If you can get one or two picks, and they have Far Mercy, they aren't going to win from there. They have to back up, wait for their team again, and you can just keep going on from there. And of course, if they have a soldier, which makes, Tracer so good, if you can happen to get up right next to him and essentially one-pop him, because you have some of the highest DPS in the entire game, most consistent high DPS, have very, very close ranges, then yeah, you can kill him, and yeah, your team's probably going to win that team fight. Of course, this does all rely on you knowing how to play safe, knowing where to get in, and having very, very good aim, or at least decent aim, but good game knowledge. But if you can happen to put all that together, you can essentially do well against everybody in the meta. No one really counters you that well. We saw McCree for quite a while. I'm not sure if he's still here. I think he switched to Soldier. But McCree should be countering Tracer. It doesn't really work right now way too well. As Tracer, for the most part, if you don't get flashbanged, if you can dodge that, or if you can just get around it somehow, flank behind him, you should be able to overall beat the McCree a decent amount of time. His damage honestly isn't way too great, and if you're with your team and you just dive on the enemies, McCree can't really do anything. He can try to flashbang you, but if you have someone like a Zarya, if you have someone like a Winston, if someone's healing you, any of those, you're not really going to die, so you want to remember that. Continuing from here, though, we see something nice, which is him just jumping in, jumping out. Of course, he knows very well this map, something you should probably be doing if you learn these characters. Getting right next to this McCree again. Luckily, get some help from that Genji, otherwise that would have been a little bit hard. And again, gets ulted by Ana, and you can actually just one-pop people like that. I forgot to even mention that, but yeah, you definitely can. From here, we see, of course, we see that Pharah up in the air. Kind of a problem for her to deal with. It's not the easiest thing for Tracer to deal with. Luckily, though, his team does end up picking them off, and now we can just focus more on the backline again. Again, it is kind of weird. You would think that you want to focus on that Pharah, that you want to take her out because she is such a high priority target. And even though I feel like she's one of the best characters to play right now, if you play a dive comp with this character, or if you're just playing really, really well, getting a lot of picks in the backline, and the Pharah's not killing you, yeah, you're going to win that match. Even if you might not be able to do quite as much always consistent damage, if you're getting those picks, if you're getting all that consistent eliminations, you're going to be a lot more useful to your team. Now, from right here, of course, we see Genji versus Tracer. You don't really have to actually try to go for those kills way too much. It's not going to work way too often. But here we see, of course, getting in the back line. We, again, have a charge. Use that to get away. I think that we saw a Roadhog right there, so it's a bit unsafe. Now we have 2 people dead. We did luckily get a pick from this Widowmaker, so that's pretty decent. And we kind of know where everybody's at, as this Mercy's healing people all the time, so we see this giant yellow beam of where to go. Of course, this guy knows super well about how to use height, so he jumps around through height, gets upstairs, unfortunately doesn't get that Mercy, but the Winston does finish it off, and now we can just go straight through this Roadhog. Of course, getting some nice solo ults. I said in some video, don't ever solo ult. That was a definitely mistaken way of saying that. Of course, you want to get those solo ults. They can make you win a lot of games. Just don't solo ult when you have the kill 100%. But if you're even 80% sure that you might not get it, of course, it's a pretty good thing to ult with, as your ult is already 25% up when he just barely used that thing. Now, when we're continuing, I'm going to say a good thing that you can try to do is, of course, not always stay 1 inch away from your Winston. Some people just wait right next to their Winston, and while that can be an okay idea, a lot of the times the enemies are going to be waiting for you right there. They're going to know that you are going in with your Winston. You aren't really going to be able to have that surprise factor that Tracer's supposed to be able to have, and that factor of getting into the backline that Tracer is supposed to be able to have. But if you go a different direction and actually try to flank and cut them off, well, you're going to be doing really well. It's a bit counterintuitive. Normally as a lot of the characters, you want to be right next to all your teammates. And, well, that does work as Tracer sometimes when you have a full team push. When you have something like a Winston solo going in, or going in with like 2 people, just trying to stall for time or something like that, you can do pretty well. Of course, the enemy team has an AFK now, somebody that left. That does happen decently enough. Of course, right next to the end of the season, and when you're losing this bad, that just usually happens. Of course, yeah, if you are playing Tracer, you can do all this stuff. But a thing I want to mention really quickly is being on the point and stalling for time. I feel like it's something that is very underrepresented with Tracer. Of course, a lot of people like to do it, but a lot of people just go in a little bit too early. They die, and their team just loses from that. They can't stall for quite enough time. I'd say try to wait as much as you can, flash onto there, and then get onto that point. Instead of jumping on immediately, of course, even when they're just stalling on like a 2CP map, it's a little bit better to be next to your team and get as much time like that. Anyways, we're just finishing it off right here, getting people as much as you can. And you can actually see that Tracer has a little bit more range than you would think. So you don't have to always get 100% melee range. Of course, you do more damage if you stuff your gun into their face and shoot straight at their necks. But if you happen to have to shoot people at a medium range, you shouldn't be too afraid of it. I don't really know why. A lot of people feel like they always have to use all of their blinks. That's the word. Get 1 inch away and blast the enemy. Well, you can do that. It's a good idea. I'd say make sure you have at least 1 blink before you do that saved up, and then go for that. And otherwise, just get a little bit of damage at medium range. Charge up your ultimate, try to finish off the kill in a second. But anyways, at least that's my own opinion about Tracer, of course about Spree, and about how Tracer kind of works in this meta. Of course, went into a little bit about the gameplay, kind of showing on what's going on. And if you guys enjoyed, as always, make sure to leave a like. Comment down below who you want to see for next time, as I do really want to pick a character that you guys want to see. And as always, guys, thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.